The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. I'm here with Robby Love. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
We're to be here.
In Oak Park. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Well, right now I'm just working on music. Started music when I was about 11 years old, so kind of knew where I wanted to go in life a long time ago. So right now I'm just working on that. Big entrepreneur, so I'm trying to focus right now my life on inspiring others to fulfill their passions and their purpose. So I started a business called Speak Imagine Mark, where I want to pretty much create content and inspire people through that content to do what they love. So there's a couple of things I'm working on right now. In terms of just like my background, grew up in Oak Park and went to OPRF for high school. Learned a lot. Tried college.
Yeah.
And
tell us a little bit about that, like your educational path. What did that look like?
Sure. So I'll kind of start in high school. I think that's where a lot of things shifted for me. My brother left for the Navy right before I went into high school. So it was just me, my sister, my mom at home. And it was at a stage in my life where I didn't really know where I wanted to be socially or the type of person that I was. So I kind of walked in, and you know, when you go transition from middle school to high school, you lose some friends, then you got to make more. And I think the first couple of years in high school, I kind of struggled with socially with just being able to make new friends, and didn't like high school the first 2 years. Once I got into spoken word, which was junior year, that kind of opened me up. But it was tied into something that I like to write.
Right.
So it's almost like I found something in that where it's like, hey, I like this stuff, and got recognition for it. And I kind of opened up the later 2 years of my life. And from there, I think it was sophomore year, actually, you kind of get poked like, hey, what college you going to? What do you want to do? So I ended up going for Columbia. I knew I wanted to do music and writing. And at the time, I felt like transitioning to college was the thing to do. Everybody else was doing it. So I went there, and I think that's where I really learned in terms of school that I wasn't taking the path that fit for me. So like my first year, I had a great class. It was, I think it was like the art and business of recording. And I loved it. It taught me so much that I didn't know about the music business and things like that. Yeah. But then there were also classes like basic math that didn't make sense. And it's like, why am I doing basic math? I'm here for music. Right. And I've learned it for the past like 8 years.
Right,
so, things like that. But there was one teacher that really kind of changed the scope for me. And forgot his name, but it was a 3-hour class, and he had this like agenda, the whole class, and we were going through like these little workshops and all that for a main purpose at the end. And the main purpose at the end was something like all hit records have the bass line underneath the kick. Okay. And it was something for me, it was like I've been doing that, since I was 11, 12 years old. Yeah. And it really changed the scope of education for me, because I was at that point, I'm like, man, what am I doing here? Right. Is this possible to learn these things outside of school? And then the same teacher, and this was like the dagger, same teacher, he ended a class by saying, and I think there was a couple of kids struggling, and that's why he did this, but he said, if college is not right for you, he said, take the time away. And he said, you'll find that a lot of this stuff, and I thought he's like very blunt about this. Yeah. He said a lot of this stuff you can go to the library and find out. And he said instead, a lot of people, they come here and they spend all this money and they don't really know what they want to do or why they're here. And it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, man, I don't want to go to college anymore. Like, you know. And then right after that, Columbia reached out to me and said, hey, you're like $3,000 short of your financial aid.
Right.
My mom already took a loan out, still wasn't enough, so I ended up not going because of that. So I'm still like, to this day, I'm on hold.
Yeah.
But I've never gone back, and I think we can kind of get into kind of what I learned from that.
Yeah. How do you, like, if you need to know something now, how do you find it out?
Google.
Right.
It's online, and that's where a lot of things are going. Is I feel like education. I mean, you can take online courses and figure out some of the stuff that people are paying thousands of dollars to sit in school. And I've talked with my friend before about this, where school is more so just a way of saying, like, it's almost like confirmation. Like, yeah, you know, I did do this. So you get the paper to say I did it, but there's millions of people that do it without that. For me, you know, as an artist, I watch a lot of musicians. There's musicians that didn't complete high school,
right,
but make millions of dollars with their craft and doing what they know to do. Like Eminem, he's very lyrical artist, but he didn't finish high school. And you think like, oh, you know, how is he so good with words? And I think, and this is what I've started to pick up on as I got older. I think with school, it's one of those things where at a certain point, you stop learning, and it's repetitive.
Yeah.
So going through high school, a lot of things that we learn there is just like review, or it's unnecessary and we forget it by the time we get out. Like if you stuck me in a high school class and gave me a pop quiz, I wouldn't know.
Right.
I wouldn't know what to do, you know, because I didn't retain it. But I can add up some things. I can, you know, subtract, divide, fractions, the things that are important in life. And I think that's where, you know, school, I think, needs to change.
Do you think, like, it seems like with the project, with the end in mind, in the class that you're talking about, this teacher, professor at Columbia, it seemed to make it more legit for you all the way through, like pieces of it, and you kind of had a map out of, you're going here, you're going to create this, and this is how this fits in?
What do you mean, like with that teacher?
Yeah.
What he did for me, I think he showed me something that I already knew was inside of me. I kind of knew I didn't want to be there. Not that I didn't want to.
Right.
I felt like this path was the right path because high school made me believe that you have to go this route.
Do you think that's wrong?
I think it is the wrong it's the wrong way of going about it. I can understand a school saying like, hey, what school do you want to go to? I think it needs to be changed in a way where instead of asking, you know, what school do you want to attend or what's your top 5 schools right now, I think it should more so be, what do you want to do with your time? If you ask me what I want to do with my time, I'll tell you I want to make music. I want to perform. I want to be an artist. I want to write. And I think when you approach it that way, then you understand from, you know, the student's perspective what they may need. You hear me and you say like, oh, he wants to perform, and you know, maybe college is not right now. But I've never had a conversation in high school where it's like, maybe college is not right. If somebody told me that and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to college, you know, I get picked on. Right. People are like, oh, you're not going to college, or people think like you're less educated if you decide not to go to college after high school. My friend, he was supposed to come with me to Columbia. He ended up going to Triton. And I think some of that rubbed off on me because I was like, man, that sucks, man. You got to go to Triton.
Right,
you know?
right.
But at the end of it, it was like, man, I wish I went, because I probably could have found out thousands of dollars, like thousands of dollars back in my pocket that I didn't need it. But I think, for schools to push that agenda where it's like, hey, what college are you going to? Or what's your top 5? Or have you applied yet? Right. I think it's the wrong way because it adds to that peer pressure that you already get. You see friends and people in the hallways. They're, oh yeah, I'm going here, I'm going there. Right. And it's pressure. It's like, man, where am I going? And we I grew up in a household that didn't have the money for that. Like, we didn't have money saved up for me to go to college.
Right.
So it's like now I'm dependent on financial aid, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, financial aid is not enough. So your mom needs to take out more.
Right.
Uh-oh, that's not enough either.
Yeah.
And you dig this hole for yourself. And I think a lot of people go into college, they don't even know what they want to do yet. And I think that's rough, because for me, it was a little bit different. I knew where I wanted to go in life. I just didn't know the direction.
Right.
But there's some people that don't even know where they want to go. And then you pressure them into going to school after high school. They're figuring out what they want to do.
Right.
While wasting money.
Yeah,
you know, because they have to pick something to study. You know, I have a friend that he did three years of college and completely changed his major.
Yeah.
And that's 3 years of money down the drain.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like when you go into high school, there should already be some sort of way where you have a profile on each student. Like, you know, the dean, they get a profile on the student. You know more about what the student wants. Student is interested in these things. And, you know, maybe they're unsure of where they want to go. And then electives, I feel, if you go with electives, there should be some sort of feedback or some sort of survey after each elective that is intentional in telling a student, like, hey, is this something that you'd be interested in pursuing? Like, I took a woodworking class in high school. I don't think they do it anymore. I'm not sure. But I found out in there, I like crafting things. Like, I like to create things. And I think if there was something that was more intentional, saying like, hey, how do you feel about this? Like, you know, as a hobby or something, like something where you can kind of get more information from the student. So by the time that you're asking, you know, junior year, like, hey, what school are you going to? You don't really have to ask that. Because you already know, like, okay, well, during development in the first 2 years, this is what the student liked, this is what the student didn't. And then make a recommendation, not just college, just make a recommendation for life. Like, you know, hey, we've noticed, like, these are the things you're interested in. Of course, you can recommend college, but give other options.
But what are your opportunities after high school that may or may not go with a standardized look into education? Because there are opportunities out there, right? Especially for artists. You know, many creatives that I've talked to say very similar things. What would that platform look like to you? What do you think are other opportunities outside of like a college or university? We already talked about military and trade school, but is there another avenue?
For me, I think the avenue would almost just be self-discovery, just taking the time away. And I think a lot of people feel so pressured to do something. Maybe you need some time to just sit back and reflect, or volunteer your time somewhere. Whereas, you know, maybe you do some community things, or for me, if it's music, stop by a couple of studios, create. But really just take time to really think, like, hey, where do I want to spend my time? And to me, it's the most important thing to know, because time's going to keep ticking. So, you know, it's always going to be there. You're always going to have time. And one person told me, you know, if you have time, then you shouldn't worry. If time is there, then take it. And I think that pressure to say, you know, I have to do something after, it shouldn't be there. Just, if you want to do nothing, sit back, but don't just do nothing. But take the time to reflect. Past experiences, what have you liked, what have you not liked, and where do you want to be, I think.
So much wisdom there, and I think you are a true disruptor of education, because you kind of disrupted your own path. But you're actually trailblazing into, you know, what you want to do. I mean, there has been failures monetarily, you know, all the different things that you go through. So I really appreciate it. Where can people find you online?
So you can go to Robby Love, at Robby Love for Instagram. What's it? Well, it's Facebook. Instagram is The Romance Nerd. So Instagram is The Romance Nerd. Facebook would be Robby Love. Speak Imagine Mark is another place. SpeakImagineMark.com. It should be releasing soon, so you'll be able to find me there. And I'm kind of doing some cool things, trying to help people find their passions in other avenues. So
I love it. I can't thank you enough. Appreciate you being here. True disruptor. We'll check out his website, put it up down here. Let me tell you, man, we're going to see some cool things out of Robby here. We'll see you guys next time on Disrupt Education.